AutoTune is amazing. There's no denying it. It revolutionized the way we record and produce our vocals, and it even allows for some imperfect vocals to sound really, really pristine and professional. So it's undeniably an amazing tool, and in the modern music industry, we definitely use it on a daily basis, and we barely can live without it at this rate. But there is some times where it just doesn't do what it's got to do. Sometimes you're trying to use AutoTune, and AutoTune is either shifting the notes to a different note, or it's squiggling it, and you're not exactly sure how to navigate this. Well, I'm here to help you fix those issues and help you navigate it. My name is Cheskia from Y&I Recording Academy, and let's get into it. So I have a session in front of me, and this is a session of a little boy singing a song that has some notes that you'll see AutoTune doesn't handle that well. So first, let me play it for you, and you'll understand what I mean, like AutoTune is not really knowing what to do with certain notes, and then we'll dive into how to fix, first of all, why it happens and how to fix it. So this is the piano and the vocal together. The first note that we come across is a C. Na 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 na, and then it's right here. Kanim vidalim. It just doesn't sound too great. The second note is also a C, I believe. Also not sounding great. If I turn off AutoTune, these notes sound better without AutoTune. So let me turn off AutoTune on the first note. Sounds much better without AutoTune. When I put AutoTune on, it's definitely messing things up. The next note we have is a, I think it's a G. Yeah. It's supposed to be a G, but AutoTune is just not letting it happen. If I turn off AutoTune, you'll see what it's supposed to sound like. So it's really sounding much better without AutoTune. So what is happening here? Why is AutoTune doing this when it's supposed to make the singer sound good? And in this case, it's making the singer sound even worse off than when we started. So let's back up and discuss how AutoTune actually works. So the way that you set AutoTune is you open it up and you set the key and the scale. And in this case, the key and the scale is an E major. It's played in an E major, this whole song. So what does this do to AutoTune? It basically tells AutoTune that all the scales in an E major scale can pass through, and any notes that are not in an E major scale, we are going to snap to the nearest E major scale note. Okay, so an E major scale is made up of the following 8 notes, or 7 notes, I really should say. Any notes that are those notes, which is an E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, all those notes will pass through AutoTune. Any notes that are not one of those ones that I just labeled will not pass through. It will snap to the nearest note of that. So let's say the singer sang an F. So an F will either be snapped to an F sharp or an E, because those are the nearest notes that an E major scale consists of. An F is not in an E major scale. So likely, if the singer was singing a song in an E major scale and is saying an F key, then likely they made a mistake because there's no F in E major scale. So AutoTune's like, you know what? We're going to correct it, and we are going to push it up to F sharp or down to E, whichever one is closer. And 95% of the time, this is what makes AutoTune sound really, really good, because it takes little imperfections of the singer and snaps it to the nearest next note, and that's what makes AutoTune work so well. The problem is when you are trying to sing a note that's technically out of scale. So in this specific example, like I said, the C and the what was the other note? And the G were the two problematic notes. And if you go through the scale again, our scale did not contain any G or C. It contained a G sharp and a C sharp. It contained a B and an F and an F sharp, but it did not contain a G or a C. So that is why when the singer sang either a G or a C, AutoTune's like, well, G and C are not an E major, so we're gonna push you up to either note that's closest. But the problem is that in this song, the song is intendedly supposed to go off scale because the chords follow that, the rest of the music follows that, everything is supposed to go off scale. The only thing is that AutoTune didn't get the memo. So the only problem now is, how do we make AutoTune get the memo? So there are a few ways to fix this. Now, the first and simplest way is going to the scale where you selected in AutoTune and select it to chromatic. And chromatic will basically make all notes pass through, no matter minor or major. All notes in the keyboard will pass through. Now, the problem with setting chromatic is that you won't get that AutoTune tight sound. AutoTune won't sound nearly as good on the rest of the performance because it's snapping it to the nearest next note. You don't want it to snap to the nearest next note. Like I said, 95% of the time you want it to snap to the nearest next scale, next note in the scale, because that is what it's going to make AutoTune sound so good. So we don't really want to compromise by setting it to chromatic the entire time. So a very simple solution would be to automate the scale to go into chromatic mode when those notes apply, or when those notes come into play. So let's add our scale to our automation lane. So you see, this is my automation plugin lanes, and I'm going to add scale. Okay, press OK. All right. Now, if we go to our automation lanes on our track, you'll see we have AutoTune Pro, scale. And right now, the scale, as you can see, is on a major. But if we go in, and every time a note that we want to pass through, which is out of scale, and make it chromatic, this is what's going to happen. Let's say we go to that kanim one more time. Let's select that kanim right there and automate AutoTune to go into chromatic mode. Now I'm going to bring up AutoTune so you can see it actually shift from major. You see right now major is green, and I'm just trying to zoom in over here. And once that note comes in, you'll see it switch to chromatic. And that pretty much seemed to really fix the issue. And all you have to do now is go to all the specific notes that we're passing through and follow the same course of action. So that is one really simple, easy way to make sure that AutoTune doesn't wreck your recordings. So now we got AutoTune tight sound in the rest of the performance, but in the notes that we want to pass through, we're getting that chromatic sound, so we're letting all notes pass through. So we're getting the best of both worlds. Now, I would use this technique 9 times out of 10 when AutoTune's making trouble for me. The only time where I wouldn't use it is when there's a key in the song that's recurring non-stop, and it would just be so time-consuming to go ahead and automate it to chromatic to every single instance. So this is a very good fix for when it's just a note here, a note there, but if it's a note that keeps on happening, then which is basically the note is like kind of part of the song and it's integral, like, you know, we're really going off scale here and the song is very much intended to do that and it keeps on happening. So in that case, this might get a little time consuming. So what I would do for this is I would go into AutoTune. Let's delete all the automation over here. I'll go into AutoTune and we can do some advanced settings with AutoTune. We can tell AutoTune that we want a specific note to constantly pass through. So let me show you how. I'm going to go back to my chromatic. If I set AutoTune in chromatic, right now it's letting everything pass through. But if we go to the advanced settings over here, so I'm just going to toggle on the advanced settings. What we're first going to do is set major. So this basically means, yes, it's chromatic, but in the advanced settings, we set the major scale. Now, we could go in and you can see that F, G, A sharp, C, and D are all supposed to be removed from the scale, which means that if any F or G or A sharp or C or D comes along, it's not going to be passed into AutoTune. It will be passed up to the next nearest note, F sharp or E, consistent like I explained before. But since we're in advanced mode, since we set the scale in advanced mode, we didn't set the scale globally. We set the scale in advanced mode right here where I just selected major. What we can do is we can edit what AutoTune really thinks about the scale over here. So like I said, let G and C, we want to be part of the scale. So all we have to do is click on it, click on the G, click on the C, and now it recognizes G and C to be part of the scale. And now if I play my performance, I don't know what's going on with my Zoom today. Now if I play my performance, you'll see without any automation that those notes are passing through just fine. Now the reason why I don't like doing this, I'm gonna play it to you in a second, but the reason why I don't like doing this usually is because once you add more notes to a scale, the rest of the performance will be less accurate. Because in a spot in the song where there's not supposed to be a G or a C passing through, rather it's actually supposed to be shifted to the next note in the scale, you will actually get a G and a C passing through. So that's why I'm a little wary about this technique. But like I said, if the G and the C is really, 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 really part of the song and it keeps on really happening, then chances are you want it to the G's and all the C's to pass through. But the reason why I don't do this usually is because this is very nice for the G's and the C's to pass through, but the rest of the performance, whenever there's a note around the G and around the C when it's not supposed to be passing through, it will pass through, and you don't want that. So in that case, I would definitely recommend the first technique. But let me play you this and show you that all our notes are passing through just fine. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That's how you make AutoTune work for you and not against you. I hope I really helped you out in this one. Comment down below which technique you like better, or if you have a different technique that you like to use to go around these issues. I'm very, very curious to know, so drop it in the comments below. Before you go, I want to give you my free home studio gear guide. If you're looking to start a home studio or upgrade your home studio, you're not sure what to get, where to get, and you're on a budget, don't worry, I got you. Put together a full home studio gear guide. Link is in the description. Go download it for free. And until next time.